A sunny Tuesday morning, a regular bike ride in rural New Mexico, and then just silence.
Yeah, and then 9 months later, 1,500 miles away, this single, really disturbing photograph appears.
It looked like it could be the breakthrough, the one everyone desperately needed.
But instead, that one image became this source of baffling conflict, leading investigators down paths that, well, it might have actually hindered the search for answers in the end.
This is the deeply unsettling case of Tara Calico, the young woman who vanished, and the infamous Polaroid that just haunts her story.
It became this central piece of potential evidence, but its own mystery, you could argue, overshadowed the crucial facts on the ground.
So today we're going to look closely at the materials you shared with us about Tara Calico's disappearance.
Right. Our goal is to carefully reconstruct the timeline, starting from that September day in 1988.
And follow the strange journey of that photograph and really try to unpack the debates, the uncertainties it brought into the whole investigation.
It's a tragic story, obviously marked by just prolonged pain and uncertainty. And we approach it with the solemn respect it demands for Tara and her family.
Okay, so let's begin by setting the scene. Who was Tara before that day?
Tara Calico was only 19 years old. She was living in Belen, New Mexico, back in the fall of 1988.
A student, right, at the University of New Mexico Valencia campus.
Yeah, studying psychology. She had aspirations, wanted to become a clinical psychologist. People described her as vibrant, loved writing, had a clear future.
And she was active, athletic.
Very. A regular thing for her, almost daily, was this long 36-mile bike ride on her pink Huffy mountain bike along New Mexico State Road 47.
It sounds like more than just exercise for her.
It really was. Kind of part of the rhythm of her days,
And her mother, Patty Doel, was often involved somehow.
That's right. Sometimes Patty would actually follow Tara in the car while she rode, just keeping an eye out.
And other times, Tara rode alone, but her mom was always waiting. That detail, it becomes incredibly poignant, doesn't it?
It really does, given what happened. Which brings us to Tuesday, September 20th, 1988.
It started like any other day, seemingly.
Pretty much. Tara left home around 9:30 in the morning for her usual ride.
Okay, and she was wearing, what, white shorts with a teal stripe, a white T-shirt?
Yeah, and she had her Sony Walkman headphones with her.
Yeah.
Listening to music, presumably.
And Patty Doel expected her back by noon. They had plans, right? Tennis.
Tennis, yeah. But 12 o'clock came and went. Tara didn't return.
And Patty later talked about that immediate, awful feeling, that knot in her stomach.
It was completely out of character for Tara to be late, especially without calling her mom.
So driven by that instinct, Patty started driving Tara's usual route along Highway 47, searching.
And near mile marker 34, she found something just horrifying. Scattered along the roadside, fragments of Tara's Walkman and pieces of a cassette tape.
And the way they were found,
Yeah.
broken, scattered, it didn't look like an accident.
No, not at all. It looked like the aftermath of something sudden, something violent, like a struggle. The evidence just strongly pointed towards an abduction.
So the alarm was raised immediately.
Instantly. And what followed was just this massive search effort. You had the Valencia County Sheriff's Office, New Mexico State Police. Eventually, the FBI got involved.
And hundreds of volunteers, too, I read.
Hundreds on horseback, on foot, using ATVs. They had aerial searches, crisscrossing that huge landscape.
But despite all that effort,
Nothing. Nothing. No sign of Tara, no bike, no clear track of who might have taken her. It was like she just vanished into thin air.
investigators were baffled. And for her family, just this devastating empty void.
Months turned into silence.
Yeah.
9 agonizing months went by after Tara vanished. No word, no trace.
And then June 15th, 1989, almost 1,500 miles away.
Yeah.
Something surfaces. Completely unexpected place.
Right. Port St. Joe, Florida. A woman named Judy Heighton finds this crumpled Polaroid photograph in a convenience store parking lot.
And there was a detail about a van.
A crucial detail. A white, windowless 1980s Toyota cargo van had reportedly been parked right in that spot just before she found the photo.
And the photo itself.
Profoundly disturbing. It showed a young woman and a small boy. Both had black duct tape over their mouths. And they appear to be bound with rope, hands tied behind their backs, lying on striped bedding, maybe inside a vehicle, looked cramped, windowless.
And there was something else in the photo.
Near the woman, a paperback book was visible. A V.C. Andrews novel.
That chilling image. It got national attention, right? America's Most Wanted.
Exactly. And that's how Tara's mother, Patty Doel, saw it.
And her reaction?
The moment she saw it, Patty was utterly convinced, just absolutely certain the young woman in the photo was her daughter, Tara.
She must have had reasons for being so sure.
She did. Specific reasons. She pointed to a distinct scar on the woman's leg, said it precisely matched a scar Tara had from a childhood injury. In the V.C. Andrews book, that was Tara's absolute favorite author. So after 9 months of just darkness, this photo, however disturbing, it felt like a fragile thread, a desperate flicker of hope that maybe Tara was still alive.
But the photo brought more complications almost right away, didn't it, with another missing child?
Yeah, another layer of heartbreak. Relatives of a 9-year-old boy, Michael Henley, he'd gone missing in New Mexico back in April 1988, near where Tara vanished. They saw the photo and believed the boy in it was Michael.
Wow. That adds this grim, almost unbelievable synchronicity.
It does. But tragically, that hope for Michael Henley's family, it ended years later when his remains were actually discovered in the Zuni Mountains in New Mexico.
So it wasn't him in the Polaroid.
It wasn't him, which
Right.
was just another layer of tragedy for his family, obviously. Their hope from the photo was misplaced.
And for the Tara Calico investigation, that must have cast immediate doubt, if the boy wasn't Michael Henley.
Exactly. Could the woman also be someone else? This is really the point where the photo, this potential clue, started generating more questions, more confusion than answers.
So the investigation enters this really complex phase. Patty Doel's belief is powerful, maternal conviction, but law enforcement needs proof.
Right, forensic confirmation. So the Polaroid was sent for rigorous analysis to multiple agencies, and the results were surprisingly contradictory.
The FBI looked at it.
They did, and their conclusion on identifying the woman as Tara Calico was termed inconclusive.
Inconclusive, meaning what
I
exactly?
mean, they couldn't definitively say it was her, but crucially, they couldn't rule it out either. Left this wide margin of doubt.
Okay, so ambiguity from the FBI. What about other agencies?
Well, adding to the confusion, the Los Alamos National Laboratory, a major research facility, they do complex analysis, they do their own examination, reportedly use facial recognition tech.
And their finding?
Their finding indicated the woman in the photo was not Tara Calico.
Not Tara. Okay, so FBI inconclusive. Los Alamos says no.
And then, reports surfaced about Scotland Yard in London. Their analysis, all the way across the Atlantic, reportedly led them to conclude the woman was Tara.
Wait, what? So FBI? Maybe? Los Alamos? No, Scotland Yard, yes.
Exactly. Think
Yeah.
about that. Major forensic bodies looking at the exact same image arrive at 3 totally different conclusions.
How is that even possible? That must have created huge friction.
Immense internal conflict, uncertainty for the investigator is just bewildering.
And beyond just the faces, there was an issue with the film itself.
Another puzzle, yeah. The photo was reportedly taken on Kodak VP-125 film. So a critical question became, when was this specific film stock actually available to buy?
Okay, and what did they find out?
Forensic analysis of the film suggested it might not have been commercially available until at least May 1989.
May 89, but Tara disappeared.
September 1988.
Right, so if the film wasn't around until May 89, the photo couldn't have been taken when she vanished.
Precisely. It doesn't automatically mean the photo isn't connected to Tara, right? But it completely blows up the initial timeline assumption.
It implies
Right.
prolonged captivity, or the photo was taken much, much later, or maybe even staged somehow.
All possibilities that suddenly had to be considered. This timeline discrepancy just fundamentally complicated everything investigators thought they knew, or hoped they knew, from the photo.
And this is where that idea comes in, that the Polaroid might have actually derailed the investigation.
That's exactly the argument. Think about where the resources went. The sheer emotional impact of that image, the possibility it showed Tara alive, it drew immense focus.
Yeah, you can see how it would.
Resources, time, manpower poured into chasing leads related to that specific white van in Florida, the Port St. Joe location, the scenario on the picture.
And that's time and effort not spent. Where?
Not spent on the crucial, painstaking, often tedious initial work back in New Mexico. Knocking on doors, following up local tips, thoroughly re-examining the original crime scene near mile marker 34, the kind of work that's critical in the early days and weeks. Every single sighting of any white van, every person who thought they recognized someone in the picture, every wild theory that spun out from it. It consumed precious investigative time, resources chasing ghosts, essentially.
Making it harder to find real, actionable intelligence.
Exactly. And for the public, too.
Yeah.
Think about it. All this conflicting information is Tara, isn't it Tara?
Hmm.
Which expert is right? It erodes trust, makes it hard to know what to believe or how to help.
So the photo becomes less a tool for clarity and more a source of fragmentation and skepticism.
Yeah. It highlights this really difficult challenge for law enforcement, right? How do you balance that intense emotional pull of a lead like the Polaroid, even if the evidence is shaky, against the need to stick to the methodical, less dramatic groundwork?
The groundwork that's often most critical early on.
Right. And in Tara's case, you have to wonder if the compelling nature of that photo maybe led to resources being scattered instead of focused where they might have done the most good initially.
But despite all this controversy around the Polaroid, the investigation itself never officially closed.
Never. And over the years, other potential leads, other suspects have been looked at, completely separate from the Florida photo. But none have led to definitive answers.
Like who?
Well, a convicted felon. This was based on alleged statements he'd made. But direct evidence linking him to Tara, it was never substantiated. And he always maintained his innocence regarding her disappearance.
Okay. Anyone else more recently?
More recently, yeah, around 2013, individuals like Sidney Moore, he was convicted of other crimes, drew some attention. There were claims about knowledge or confessions related to Tara's case.
But that didn't pan out either.
Ultimately, no. Those leads didn't result in the breakthrough needed to solve her disappearance.
And the FBI, they reopened the case.
They did, officially, in 2009. Offered a reward for information, released age-progressed photos of Tara, try to keep her story and image out there.
But still, answers remained out of reach.
Still out of reach.
And through all of this, Tara's family, especially her mother, Patty, and stepfather, John Doel, they never gave up.
Never. It's just profoundly sad that Patty Doel passed away in 2006. She never found out what happened to her daughter.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
It is. Her stepfather, John, he's continued the search tirelessly. Their dedication is just. It's a testament to their love, their resilience. It's incredible.
And for the family, that Polaroid must have remained such a complex thing.
Immensely complex. They held on to the belief it was Tara, right? For them, it was maybe the only potential connection they had to her after she vanished.
But the emotional toll.
Imagine the roller coaster. That initial desperate hope when they first saw it, the conflicting scientific reports, the public speculation back and forth. It was probably a source of constant torment, but also perhaps the only tangible clue they felt they had in a search that offered so little else.
Which really brings us back to that central question we started with. Did the Polaroid ultimately hinder the investigation more than it helped?
Based on everything we've looked at, the resources it consumed, the conflicting forensics, the potential misdirection it caused, especially early on, the sources suggest it absolutely added layers of complexity division. It arguably slowed things down.
Yeah, it seems hard to argue otherwise.
The case of Tara Calico remains open today, a haunting cold case. It continues to baffle investigators and, fascinate the public.
It really stands as this stark, tragic example, doesn't it? How one single, incredibly compelling piece of evidence can paradoxically just muddy the waters instead of clearing them up.
Leaving a family and really a nation still searching for answers that just remain completely out of reach.
The story of Tara Calico. It's just this tragic mix, a sudden vanishing, a family's desperate, enduring hope, and then this frustrating ambiguity introduced by a single photograph found so far from home.
That infamous Polaroid really became a symbol of the unsolved case. Maybe precisely because its most striking potential clue was also its most uncertain one.
And Tara Calico's family, they continue to wait for truth, for answers. Her disappearance is still unsolved.
And that haunting photograph just continues to raise more questions than it answers. A silent testament to a mystery that endures year after year.
So we want to end by saying this directly to you, our listeners. If you have any information at all regarding Tara Calico's disappearance, truly, no matter how small or insignificant you might think it is, please contact the FBI or the Valencia County Sheriff's Office.
That one detail you remember could be the piece that finally helps investigators put this case back on track. Bringing justice for Tara and maybe some measure of peace for her family is paramount.
Please, if you know something, come forward. Thank you for listening with us today as we looked into this very difficult case.
We encourage you to subscribe to our channel.
And please consider leaving a comment. Share your thoughts, your reactions to the complexities of this story.